A lot of people get on here and they ask, Yahki, what is food? Yahki, what is food? Food is simple. Food is fuel for the human vehicle. Food is fuel for the human mind. Food is fuel for the neurological expression. Food is fuel for emotions. You eat things for energy. Just like you can have something called food for thought. You are eating right now. And even though you're not eating a physical substance, you're still eating because you are hanging on my words and you're trying to download and you're trying to rearrange and process this information and knowledge. And from that, you gain something from it. So food is to gain. You either gaining knowledge from food, you either gaining energy from food, or on the back end, you either gaining acidosis from food, or you gaining negative thoughts. So food is something that is fuel for the body. Now, just so happen to be everybody that makes up the so-called human race, so-called because the word human is not even a 200-year word, y'all. It's very, very new, and it was created by college universities. You know, all these different races, humans, African Americans, Caucasians, these are made up words. There's really no such thing as race, period. You know, we are tribal people. There was only indigenous people here throughout the whole entire globe. And then from that, you see a spinoff and you start seeing mutations. And then you start seeing other people like Mongoloids and what you would call Caucasian and cavemen and, you know, Asians and things like that spring forth. You know, you have Homo sapiens, then you have Homo erectus, you got Dravidians, you have so many different root races or classification of ethnicity groups, y'all. Now, I'll teach y'all this all the time. All you have to do is go into nature, family. That's all you got to do. Go into nature. You cannot show me. I'm talking about, and I talked about this in my last video, just speaking about the fowl kingdom, right? We have a bird kingdom that is mixed with so many different classifications of birds, y'all. The eagle, you have the hawk, you have the vulture, you have the parakeet, you have the crow, you have the hummingbird. Even though that they're all considered birds, family, all of them are in a different geographical location. All of their physiology is somewhat different, and all of them have a different food source. The hummingbird is not going to eat what the eagle and what the vulture eat. The hummingbird likes to eat its tree sap. The hummingbird likes to eat its nectar. The hummingbird likes to do things like that. See that if the hummingbird would go eat roadkill like the vulture does, if the hummingbird would go and eat a fish like the eagle loves to eat, then the hummingbird would die, because that is not food for the hummingbird physiology. Same thing as the vulture. You will not catch a vulture eating sap. You will not catch a vulture sucking the nectar out of certain different flowers in nature, because it don't assimilate with its biology. It doesn't assimilate with its physiology, family. So if you can go through the feline, you can go through the feline family, you can go through the canine, or what you would call the wild dog family. You can go through the actual reptilian family, and you can go through the bird family. You can go through even the sea. When we start talking about whales and dolphins and fish, all of them have different types of food. In the sea, you have carnivores, you have omnivores, and you have what you would call herbivores. You have fish that feeds off seaweed, you have fish that feeds off of, and you have fish that feeds off other fish. When you talk about the fowl kingdom, you have fowls that feeds off of actual vegetation, seeds, and sap and honey and things like that. But then you have fowls that feeds off of other fowls, carnivores. Same thing with reptilians. You have reptilians that eat vegetation. Then you have something like a Komodo dragon that will eat another Komodo dragon. Or an alligator that will eat a damn rhinoceros. But then you have other reptiles or reptilians that don't. So every group of classification of living mammals and species and reptilians and amphibians in the world, even though they're all classified under one different name based off their geographical location and their physiology and their biochemical molecular makeup, they eat different food. So this is my question, family. If we can prove this is simple science and this is simple research with every other living species on planet Earth, how come when it comes to so-called humans, because remember, that is a made-up word, how come when it comes to so-called human beings, we all supposed to eat the same thing? That is not correct, family. That is not correct. It's a lie. You see that? So then you have to start getting into the physiology of the so-called Aboriginals of America, the so-called Aboriginals of Africa, the so-called Aboriginals of Australia, the so-called Aboriginals of Asia or or what they call Asia, the so-called Aboriginals of all these different continents, these original beings that originated in these different continents, that share the same neuromelanin that we have, that share the same genealogy that we have. We're just in different geographical locations. Notice when you check their physiology is different than every other people. I did a whole entire video on YouTube talking about the biochemical molecular difference of white people, black people, and Asians. I did it. It was a whole hour and 40 minutes. We pulled out scientific articles showing how our teeth is bigger and flatter than Caucasians, showing you that we assimilate closer to more than overlords than theirs. Their teeth are more short and narrow and pointy, showing that they have the capability of tearing into flesh more than we do. We even went down to the stomach acidity, showing the acid content, how their hydrochloric acid inside of their stomachs is hotter than our hydrochloric acids. They actually produce more goblet cells than us. We went to the size of the brain, showing how our brains is bigger than theirs, especially when it comes to our frontal lobes and our cortex, showing that we are higher thinking people. Not saying that they ain't shit, not talking about them. I'm speaking of pure science, talking about our hair, how we have non-ether coil hair, what they call kinky hair that grows towards the sun. And when you look at their hair grow towards the ground, and it assimilates more as animal fur. We even have different classification. I have 6 ether hair. We have 9 ether hair. Let's start talking about the 12 melanated clusters on our brain, or what you would call the 12 cranial nerves, and how ours have these clusters that look like grapes, and they're black clusters around ours, and it's full of neuromelanin. But when you check theirs don't. Or how our thymus gland is 3 times bigger than theirs. Or how most of their pineal gland starts calcifying at the age of 7 and ours don't. And the size of our pineal gland is bigger than theirs. See, this is not racism. This is not us talking about them. And let's talk about the melanin content. Eomelanin, pheomelanin, neuromelanin, crystallized melanin, magnetites, calcite, getting into crystals, getting into lipids. We have all of that. They have a little bit of it, but they don't have nearly as much as us. Let's talk about our noses. Our nose structure is different because we breathe air different based off the genealogy and where we come from. You see what I'm saying? Even our minerals. They mineral is calcium. Our mineral is iron phosphate. The Asian mineral is zinc and iodine. Then if you go over there, notice they don't have zinc and iodine problems. When you look at the Caucasian, he used to didn't have calcium problems. But the Negro always had iron problems because we missing it and we lacking in all of our diets. On purpose. This is purposely done. So we have our own landmass. We have our own food. We have our own physiology. We have our own physiological structure. We have our own everything. We have our own mineral content. The biochemistry, molecular structure of our body is different. We have 150 trillion cells. They only have 50 trillion cells. This is scientifically proven. We have more diversity of bacteria, whether it's biobifidum bacteria or whether it's lactobacillus bacteria, whether it's H. pylori. That's why H. pylori is attacking us the way it is, called Helicobacter pylori. Even the bacteria is very diverse amongst us. You see that? Even our cells, Henrietta Lacks cells. This come from our lineage. This come from our bloodline. This come from our DNA ancestry. It's different. So if you can look out into nature and you can see that there's different classifications of animals and of mammals and of amphibians and of reptiles, and we see that they have a different food source, then why do you think we would have the same food source? That it don't make sense, family. I'm just trying to get you to question logic here. All right? Now, check this out. I'm a dietitian. I've been doing this for 12 years. We've been changing people's diets. We've been changing people to the frugivore diet. We've been looking and studying gorillas, studying and seeing what gorillas eat from chimpanzee. Even the monkey kingdom is different. Gorillas don't eat what chimpanzees eat. Chimpanzees don't eat what the rhesus monkeys eat. But they all called monkeys and primates. But guess what? All of them have different types of what, y'all? Diets. But they all classified as what? Primates. Some primates have tails. Some primates don't. See that? Caucasians. Yes, 32% of them grow tails. I've yet to see an Aboriginal American, an Aboriginal African, an Aboriginal Australian grow a tail. So we see some of the Indians, they grow tails as well. So we see that they grow tails, we don't. These are facts, family. I'm not spewing hatred. I'm not even talking about nobody. I'm just stating facts that we are different. And if we are different from a biochemical molecular structure standpoint, our food must be different, because guess what food is? Food is fuel for the molecular structure.